Hello, my name is Keisha King. Welcome to my presentation of my research for the flipped classroom. The Flipped Learning Network defines flipped learning as a pedagogical approach in which direct instruction moves from the group learning space to the individual learning space, and the resulting group space is transformed into a dynamic, interactive learning environment where the educator guides students as they apply concepts and engage creatively in the subject matter. Basically, it is where students watch video lectures at home and complete practice, assignments, projects, and tasks while they're in class with the assistance of their teacher and their peers. The purpose of my study was to determine if there was a correlation in student achievement in the flipped classroom versus non-flipped classrooms. In flipped classrooms, learning is student-centered, where the teacher's role is to guide instruction and learning. Students are actively engaged in the learning process, unlike in non-flipped classrooms. My research questions are: is there a difference in student achievement of those in a flipped classroom and those not in a flipped classroom? What are teachers' perception of the flipped classroom? And what are students' perceptions of the flipped classroom? To conduct my research, I used the same unit assessment from a fall semester for a traditional classroom and for the spring semester for a flipped classroom. It was one unit of study. The summative assessments were the same for each group. Formative assessments, quizzes, worksheets of that nature were all the same to prepare the students for the summative assessments. Students took the assessment using the same tools that were available, the calculator, and any other technology they had. I compared the data from the summative assessments. Students and teachers also participated in anonymous surveys. I used the convergent parallel design, which means I collected both quantitative and qualitative data and merged the data to get a better understanding and interpret the results. My null hypothesis states there is not a significant difference in student learning in the flipped classroom and those not in the flipped classroom. From the data collected from the unit assessments for the fall semester and the spring semester, notice the mean in the spring semester was 78, while in the flipped classroom and the mean for the fall semester in the non-flipped classroom was 81. We can tell right away that student learning was not better in the flipped classroom if we're looking solely at the mean. I also performed a t-test. The mean and variance were listed. The variance simply shows how far a set of numbers is from the mean. A high variance means your numbers in the mean or your regular scores differ from the mean by a large amount. Our p-score for this particular study was 0.38, which is greater than the 0.05, and the 0.05 is where your means are the same. So since it is greater than 0.05, it is not significant change, and then you fail to reject the null hypothesis. I also did anonymous student surveys. My student survey showed that before flipping the classroom, 53% of students completed their homework. After flipping the classroom, students said that 87% of them completed their classroom assignments that were done in the classroom instead of homework assigned that was in the traditional classroom. Also, 87% of students feel that flipping the classroom helped them to learn the material better. I also did an anonymous survey for teachers. Many of the teachers were neutral on the idea with the flipped classroom. They didn't feel it was more negative than positive, but 60% of teachers feel that the student learning increased in the flipped classroom model. My findings show that I failed to reject my null hypothesis that states that there is not a significant difference in learning in student learning in the flipped classroom and those not in the flipped classroom. There was not enough evidence in the study to prove that there is a difference in the achievement in the flipped classroom versus the traditional classroom. Not that I disproved it, but there was not enough evidence in the study to show that based on the data that I collected from my students and from my research. More so, I feel that more class time to work with students and to interact with students and keep them actively engaged in the learning process contributes to student improvement. So not just flipping the classroom, but all those things together. Limitations and recommendations. For my limitations, there was a short period of research time. I didn't spend the entire semester leading up to the flipped classroom. I did 1 unit of study, and I figured if I had my students in the routine of practicing the flipped classroom model for a longer period of times, I probably would have seen different results. There was a limited number of participants. I focused on one class instead of all of my classes combined. And there were other variables that could have contributed to the insignificant factor of whether the flipped classroom worked versus the non-flipped. And those items are student background knowledge, whether they were familiar with the information before we started, their demographics, the particular classroom routine. Recommendations I have for others doing research is to start your research early. Make sure you are using various forms of data to determine if there is a significant difference. Also, study your data interpretations to see what your data is telling you so that you can report on it correctly. Further research is needed. Not just one study, but several studies over a longer period of time will give you better results. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy my presentation. Thank you.